Alien Princess never expected the truth that she was a disabled alien princess. She kept her secret. Princess Zaraeth stood before the massive crystal mirror in her royal chambers, her pale blue skin gleaming under the artificial sunlight that streamed through the transparent walls. Her silver hair fell in elegant waves past her shoulders, and her violet eyes reflected the beauty that made her the most admired princess in the Valorian Empire. But beauty meant nothing without power, and power, in her world, came from one source alone, the mind. She pressed her fingertips to her temples and closed her eyes. Around her, the room filled with the soft humming of hidden technology, tiny devices, invisible to the naked eye, activated throughout the chamber. They created the illusion that every Valorian noble expected to feel in the presence of royalty. The gentle pressure of telepathic energy, the warm touch of a powerful mind reaching out to connect. It was all fake. Zaraeth opened her eyes and sighed. 23 years of lies. 23 years of pretending to be something she was not. Every day brought new challenges to maintain her secret. Every conversation required careful planning. Every public appearance meant activating the technology that made others believe. She possessed the telepathic gifts that define her people. A soft knock at her door made her jump. "Your Highness," the voice belonged to Marcus Chen, her human bodyguard. Unlike the other guards who were all Valorian, Marcus had been assigned to her 5 years ago as part of the diplomatic exchange program. He was the only person in the palace who knew her secret. "Come in, Marcus," she called, quickly checking that all her devices were functioning properly. The door slid open with a quiet hiss. Marcus stepped inside, his dark hair neatly combed and his human features showing the same calm expression he always wore. He was tall for a human, though still shorter than most Valorians, and his brown eyes held an intelligence that many of her people overlooked. To them, humans were just another primitive species that had recently joined the galactic community. "The Emperor requests your presence in the throne room," Marcus said, bowing slightly. "The Galactic Council has sent an important message." Zaraeth felt her heart skip a beat. Important messages from the Galactic Council usually meant trouble. She nodded and followed Marcus through the long corridors of the palace. The walls were made of the same crystal material as her mirror, allowing natural light to flow throughout the building. Other nobles passed them, each one giving a respectful nod as they felt the fake telepathic energy that surrounded her. The throne room was a vast space with a ceiling that reached high above their heads. Emperor Thakran, her father, sat on the Valorian throne, a seat carved from a single piece of blue crystal that amplified telepathic abilities. His presence filled the room like a warm blanket, and Zaraeth could feel the power radiating from his mind, even though she could not truly connect with it. Standing before the throne were several council members and a holographic projection of an alien figure she recognized as Counselor Velter from the Galactic Council. Zaraeth," her father said, his deep voice echoing in the chamber. "Please join us. The council has made an announcement that concerns you directly." She walked forward, her devices working harder to project the illusion of power as she entered the range of so many telepathic minds. Marcus followed at a respectful distance, his human presence barely noticed by the others. Counselor Velter's hologram flickered slightly as he began to speak. "Greetings, Princess Zaraeth. The Galactic Council has decided to hold the tournament of minds to select a new cosmic arbiter. As you know, this position has been vacant for 50 years since the last arbiter passed into the great beyond." Zaraeth nodded, though her stomach began to twist with worry. The cosmic arbiter was the most powerful telepathic position in the galaxy, responsible for settling disputes between species and maintaining peace across hundreds of worlds. "The tournament will test not only raw telepathic power," Velter continued, "but also wisdom, leadership, and the ability to unite different minds under one vision. We have selected 12 candidates from the most powerful telepathic species in the galaxy." The counselor paused, and Zaraeth knew what was coming next. "Princess Zaraeth of the Valorian Empire, you have been chosen to represent your people in this tournament. Your reputation for wisdom and your powerful telepathic abilities make you an ideal candidate." The room fell silent. Zaraeth felt the weight of every eye upon her. Her father's mind touched hers gently, or rather, touched the illusion that her technology created. To him, it felt like pride and determination flowing from her thoughts. In reality, she was terrified. "I am honored by this selection," she managed to say, her voice steady despite the fear racing through her body. "When will the tournament begin?" "In 30 days, Velta replied. "The location will be the neutral space station Harmony Point. Each candidate will have time to prepare and may bring one advisor of their choosing." After the hologram faded and the council members dispersed, Zara found herself alone with her father and Marcus. The Emperor stepped down from his throne and placed a heavy hand on her shoulder. "My daughter," he said, his mental voice warm. In what he believed was her mind, "this is the opportunity our family has waited for. A Valorian has not held the position of cosmic arbiter in 3 centuries. Your victory would bring great honor to our empire." "I understand, father," she replied, the weight of his expectations crushing down on her. As they left the throne room, Marcus walked beside her in silence. Only when they reached her chambers did he speak. "Your Highness," he said quietly, making sure no one else could hear, "we need to talk." Once inside her room with the door sealed, Zara collapsed into a chair. The stress of maintaining her facade in front of so many powerful minds had exhausted her. "This is impossible, Marcus," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "A telepathic tournament? They will discover the truth in minutes. Everything will be ruined. My father, the empire, our people's reputation." Marcus knelt beside her chair, his brown eyes serious but kind. "Your Highness, there might be another way." She looked up at him with hope and desperation. "What do you mean?" "My people, the humans, we have been studying telepathic phenomena. For decades, we may not have natural telepathic abilities, but we have developed technology and techniques that could help you. Not to fake your powers this time, but to enhance what you do have." "I don't have anything to enhance," Zara said bitterly. "I am mind-blind, broken, useless." Marcus shook his head firmly. "That's where you're wrong. Your Highness, in the past 5 years, I have watched you lead, inspire, and solve problems in ways that none of the telepathic nobles could match. You see things they miss. You understand people in ways their mind-reading cannot achieve. What if I told you that your difference could become your greatest strength?" For the first time in years, Zara felt a small spark of hope. "Tell me more." Outside her window, the twin suns of Valoria began to set, painting the Crystal Palace in shades of orange and gold. In 30 days, she would face the greatest challenge of her life. But for the first time, she would not face it alone. She would face it with the help of humanity's greatest gift, the ability to find solutions where others saw only problems. The masquerade was about to become something far more dangerous and far more real than she had ever imagined. 3 days had passed since the announcement of the tournament. Princess Zara had spent most of that time in her chambers, unable to eat or sleep properly. The weight of the impossible task ahead pressed down on her like a crushing stone. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined the moment when her secret would be revealed in front of the entire galaxy. Marcus knocked on her door at dawn on the 4th day. "Your Highness, it's time. I have something to show you." She opened the door, her violet eyes tired and worried. "Marcus, I've been thinking. Maybe I should just tell my father the truth. Maybe I should withdraw from the tournament and face the consequences." "Before you make that decision," Marcus said gently, "please come with me. Trust me for one more day." Zara looked at her loyal friend. In 5 years, he had never let her down. He had helped her maintain her secret, protected her from discovery, and treated her with kindness when others saw only her royal title. She nodded slowly. "Where are we going?" "To meet some friends of mine," Marcus replied with a small smile. They left the palace through a service entrance that Marcus had used before for their secret meetings. A small transport waited for them, piloted by another human. The man had graying hair and wore the simple clothes of a maintenance worker. "Your Highness," the pilot said with respect, "I'm Dr. James Rivera. I've been looking forward to meeting you." As they flew away from the palace, Zara watched the crystal spires of her home city grow smaller below them. Where exactly are we going? To the human district, Marcus explained. Most people think it's just where human workers and diplomats live. But we've built something special there, something that could change everything. The human district looked ordinary from the outside. Small buildings made of metal and glass. Much simpler than the crystal architecture that Valorians preferred. But as their transport landed near a building that looked like a warehouse, Zara sensed that there was more here than met the eye. Dr. Rivera led them through several doors, each one requiring different security checks. Finally, they entered a large room filled with strange equipment and humans working at various stations. The walls were covered with screens showing brain patterns, energy readings, and complex mathematical formulas. "Welcome to Project Harmony," Dr. Rivera said proudly. "We've been working on this for 8 years. A woman with short red hair approached them. She wore a white coat and had the confident look of someone who understood complex problems. "Your Highness, I'm Dr. Sarah Kim. We've heard a lot about you from Marcus." Zara looked around the room with wonder and confusion. "What is all of this?" Dr. Kim said, gesturing to the equipment around them, "is humanity's answer to telepathic superiority. We realized long ago that we would never develop natural telepathic abilities like other species. So we decided to develop something better." She led them to a chair surrounded by delicate sensors and monitors. "We've been studying how telepathic minds work. Most species use their abilities to force their thoughts into other minds, to dominate and control. But we discovered something interesting about your condition, Your Highness." Dr. Rivera joined them, carrying a tablet with brain scan images. "Marcus has been secretly recording the brain patterns of everyone in the palace for years. We've studied how true telepaths think, how they process information, and how they make decisions." He showed Zara the tablet. "These are your brain patterns compared to other Valorian nobles. Look at the difference." The images showed colorful patterns of brain activity. The telepathic Valorians had certain areas that glowed brightly, but other areas were dim. Zarath's scan showed the opposite pattern. "Your brain doesn't work like theirs," Dr. Kim explained. "The areas they use for telepathy are quiet in your mind, but look at these regions." She pointed to sections of Zarath's scan that glowed much brighter than in the others. "These areas control pattern recognition, emotional understanding, and creative problem solving. Your brain has developed these abilities far beyond what any telepathic mind possesses." Marcus stepped forward. "What they're saying, Your Highness, is that your disability has made your brain work differently. While other Valorians focus on reading and controlling minds, you've learned to read body language, understand emotions, and see patterns that they miss completely." Dr. Rivera activated one of the machines. "We've developed technology that can enhance these natural abilities, not to make you telepathic, but to make you better at what you already do naturally." A helmet-like device descended from the ceiling. It was much more elegant than the crude technology Zara had been using to fake her abilities. This device looked like it was made of silver threads and tiny crystals. "This is the Neural Enhancement Interface," Dr. Kim said. "It connects to the areas of your brain that are already strong and amplifies them. It will help you read micro-expressions on faces, understand emotional states, predict behavior patterns, and process complex social situations faster than any telepathic mind." "But how will that help me in a telepathic tournament?" Zara asked. Dr. Rivera smiled. "That's the brilliant part. Telepathic species have become lazy. They rely on their abilities so much that they've forgotten how to truly understand people. They read surface thoughts, but they miss the deeper truths that come from careful observation. We've studied every previous cosmic arbiter," Marcus added. "The truly great ones weren't just powerful telepaths. They were leaders who could inspire others, solve complex problems, and bring different species together. These are things that your enhanced human-like abilities will excel at." Dr. Kim brought over several data tablets. "We've also analyzed the structure of previous tournaments. They don't just test raw power. They test wisdom, leadership, creativity, and the ability to unite diverse minds. All areas where your way of thinking has advantages. Zara felt overwhelmed by the information. But what if someone discovers what we're doing? What if they realize I'm using human technology? The interface is undetectable by telepathic scanning. Dr. Rivera assured her, to other species, it will feel like you're using a very unusual but natural form of mental ability. They might be curious about your techniques, but they won't be able to prove anything. Marcus placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Your Highness, you spent 23 years thinking of your condition as a weakness. But what if it's actually your greatest strength? What if the galaxy needs a leader who thinks differently, who sees solutions that telepathic minds cannot? Imagine. Dr. Kim nodded enthusiastically. We believe that true leadership doesn't come from forcing others to obey your thoughts. It comes from inspiring them to follow your vision willingly. That's something that can only be achieved through understanding, empathy, and wisdom. Things that your brain is naturally designed to excel at. For the first time since the tournament was announced, Zara felt a spark of hope growing in her chest. She looked around the room at all the humans working on various projects, at the technology they had developed, at the years of research they had conducted. You did all of this for me, she asked quietly. Dr. Rivera shook his head. We did this for the galaxy, Your Highness. We believe that diversity of thought is the key to solving the universe's greatest challenges. A telepathic cosmic arbiter will lead the same way all the others have. But a leader who thinks like a human, that could change everything. Marcus smiled at her. Are you ready to stop hiding your differences and start using them as your greatest weapon? Zara looked at the neural enhancement interface, then at the humans who had worked so hard to help her. For 23 years, she had lived in fear of discovery. Now, she was being offered the chance to turn her greatest secret into her greatest strength. She took a deep breath and nodded. Let's begin. Outside the warehouse, the twin sons of Valoria reached their peak in the sky. Inside, a princess began learning that being different wasn't a curse to hide, but a gift to embrace. The tournament was only 26 days away, but for the first time, she felt ready to face it. The space station Harmony Point was the largest neutral structure in the galaxy, built from materials donated by dozens of different species. It floated in the void between star systems. Like a small metal moon, Princess Zara watched through the viewport of her transport ship as they approached the station. Her heart beat fast with nervousness and excitement. 26 days of training had changed her completely. The neural enhancement interface now felt like a natural part of her mind. She could read the smallest changes in facial expressions, understand the meaning behind every gesture, and sense the emotional state of anyone around her. The humans had taught her that true power came not from controlling minds, but from understanding. Heartstop Marcus stood beside her, wearing the formal uniform of a royal advisor. How do you feel, Your Highness? Zara touched the hidden interface beneath her silver hair. It looked like a delicate crown made of thin crystal threads, invisible unless someone looked very closely. Different, she said honestly. For the first time in my life, I feel like I might actually belong here. Their ship docked at the station with a soft thud. As they walked through the corridors toward the main assembly hall, Zara saw representatives from 12 different species. Each contestant had brought their most powerful telepaths, beings who could crush minds with a single thought. The first person she noticed was Prince Kethmer of the Dominion Empire. He was tall and pale, with red eyes that seemed to glow with inner fire. His telepathic presence filled the corridor like cold wind, making other beings step away from him in fear. When his gaze fell on Zara, she felt him trying to probe her mind. Her interface immediately responded, analyzing his facial micro-expressions and body language. Instead of the telepathic intrusion he expected to find, he encountered something he couldn't understand. Her mind felt strange to him, different from other Valorians, but not in a way he could identify. Interesting, he said aloud, his voice carrying the accent of his species. Princess Zarkath of Valoria, your reputation precedes you, as does yours, Prince Kethmer. She replied calmly. Her enhanced abilities allowed her to see the suspicion in his eyes, the slight tension in his shoulders that showed he was already planning something. I look forward to our competition. as they continued toward the assembly hall. Marcus whispered quietly, "He suspects something." "I know," Zaraeth replied. "But suspicion is not proof. We'll be careful." The assembly hall was a vast spherical room with seats arranged in a circle around a central platform. Each species had their own section, decorated with symbols and colors from their home worlds. The Valorian section was made of blue crystal, just like her palace on their home planet, Counselor. Vilter appeared as a hologram in the center of the room. His voice echoed as he addressed the 12 contestants. "Welcome, champions of your peoples. The Tournament of Minds will test not only your telepathic abilities, but your wisdom, leadership, and capacity for unity. The galaxy needs an arbiter who can bring peace between different species, not just dominate them." He gestured to a series of screens that displayed the tournament structure. "You will face 5 challenges over the next 7 days. The first challenge begins tomorrow and will test your ability to resolve conflict. The second will examine your strategic thinking. The third will measure your capacity for empathy and understanding. The fourth will test your leadership under pressure. The final challenge will determine who among you can truly unite diverse minds under one vision." As the counselor continued explaining the rules, Zaraeth used her enhanced abilities to study her competitors. The Zephyrian representative kept touching his temple nervously, suggesting anxiety despite his powerful telepathic reputation. The delegate from the Silicon Collective showed no emotion at all, which her interface identified as a defensive behavior pattern. Each competitor had strengths and weaknesses that their own telepathic abilities prevented them from seeing in themselves. After the assembly, the contestants were given time to prepare in their assigned quarters. Zaraeth's room was comfortable but simple, with a window that looked out into the star-filled void of space. Marcus activated several small devices that would prevent anyone from spying on their conversations. "What did you observe?" he asked, pulling out a tablet to record her analysis. "Prince Kethmer is the most dangerous, but not because of his power," she said, sitting in a chair by the window. "He's suspicious and intelligent. He won't just try to win through force, he'll look for weaknesses to exploit. And the others? The Zephyrian is nervous, which means he's not as confident as he appears. The Silicon Collective representative is hiding fear behind emotionless behavior. The Crystalline Empire's champion keeps looking at the exit, suggesting she doesn't really want to be here." She paused, processing more information. "But there's something else, Marcus. Something the humans taught me that none of these telepaths understand." "What's that?" "They're all trying to prove they're the strongest mind. But the position of Cosmic Arbiter isn't about strength. It's about bringing different species together. Every previous Arbiter who succeeded did so because they found ways to make enemies into allies." Marcus smiled. "And that's exactly what your enhanced abilities are designed for." The next morning, the first challenge began. All 12 contestants were brought to a simulation room where they faced a holographic scenario. 2 alien species were on the brink of war over mining rights to a valuable asteroid. Each contestant had to find a solution that both sides would accept, one by one. The telepathic champions tried to force their solutions on the simulated aliens. They used mental pressure, domination, and fear to make the species agree. Some succeeded, temporarily, but the solutions felt unstable and forced. When Zaraeth's turn came, she approached the problem differently. Instead of trying to control the aliens' minds, she studied their body language, listened to their emotional concerns, and identified what each side really needed beyond their stated demands. The first species needed the asteroid's minerals to heal their dying planet, but they also needed to maintain their dignity as proud warriors. The second species needed the mining income to feed their hungry population, but they also feared being seen as weak for giving up their claim. Using her enhanced empathy, Zaraeth proposed a joint mining operation where both species would work together. The warrior species would provide protection for the mining operation, maintaining their honor while helping their former enemies. The income would be shared, but the warrior species would also receive medicine for their planet in exchange for their protection services. Both simulated species accepted immediately. The judges looked surprised, and several other contestants stared at her with confusion. How had she read the alien's needs so accurately without deep telepathic probing? Prince Kethmer watched from across the room. His red eyes narrowed with suspicion. After the challenge ended, he approached her. "Remarkable technique, Princess," he said, his voice smooth but threatening. "Your telepathic signature is quite unique. I've never encountered anything quite like it." "Thank you, Prince Kethmer," she replied, her interface reading the micro-expressions. That revealed his true intentions. "I believe that understanding others requires more than just reading their surface thoughts." "Indeed," he said with a cold smile. "I look forward to learning more about your methods." As he walked away, Marcus moved to her side. "He's planning something." "Yes," Zara-Eth agreed, watching the prince speak quietly with two other contestants. "But planning requires understanding your opponent, and I understand him better than he understands himself." That evening, news of the first challenge results spread throughout the station. Princess Zara-Eth had achieved the highest score, not through telepathic domination, but through what the judges called unprecedented empathic insight. In her quarters, she looked out at the stars and felt a strange new confidence growing inside her. For 23 years, she had hidden her differences in shame. Now, those same differences were becoming her greatest strength. But she knew the real test was still coming. Prince Kethmer was intelligent and suspicious, and he wouldn't give up until he discovered her secret. The game had truly begun, and for the first time in her life, Princess Zara-Eth was ready to play it on her own terms. 3 more challenges had passed, and Princess Zara-Eth had won them all. Her unique approach of understanding rather than controlling had amazed the judges and confused her competitors. But Prince Kethmer's suspicions had grown stronger with each victory. On the morning of the final challenge, Zara-Eth sat in her quarters reviewing her performance. The strategic thinking test had been easy for her enhanced pattern recognition abilities. The empathy challenge had felt natural, like breathing. Even the leadership test, where she had to coordinate a rescue mission, had played to her strengths in reading people and inspiring cooperation, rather than forcing obedience. Marcus entered the room carrying his tablet and looking worried. "Your Highness, we have a problem. Prince Kethmer has been asking questions about human technology. He's been investigating our people in the human district back on Valoria." Zara-Eth felt her stomach drop. "What kind of questions?" "Technical questions about neural interfaces and brain enhancement devices. He's also requested detailed scans of your telepathic signature from all the challenges." Marcus sat down across from her. "I think he's planning to expose you during the final challenge." Before she could respond, the space station suddenly shook violently. Emergency alarms began blaring throughout the corridors. The lights flickered and changed to red warning signals. "Attention all inhabitants." Came an announcement over the communication system. "The station is under attack by unknown entities. All contestants and officials please report to the Central Assembly Hall immediately." Zara-Eth and Marcus rushed through the corridors along with hundreds of other beings. The space station continued to shake as something powerful struck its hull. Through the windows, they could see strange dark shapes moving in the void around the station. In the assembly hall, Counselor Velter appeared as a hologram, but his image was flickering and unstable. "We are under attack by entities we believe were extinct. The void swarm has returned." Gasps of fear echoed through the hall. Zara-Eth had heard stories of the void swarm from ancient history lessons. They were creatures that fed on telepathic energy, draining the minds of their victims until nothing remained but empty shells. "All telepathic individuals are at extreme risk," the counselor continued. "The swarm creatures can enter telepathic minds and consume them from within. We are attempting to evacuate, but our shields are failing." As if responding to his words, the station shook again. Harder this time. Suddenly, the air in the hall began to shimmer, dark. Writhing shapes materialized throughout the room, like living shadows with glowing red cores. The telepathic contestants screamed in unison as the creatures attacked their minds, one by one. The most powerful telepaths in the galaxy fell to their knees, clutching their heads in agony. Prince Kethmer, who moments before had been planning to expose Zara-Eth, collapsed unconscious as 3 shadow creatures surrounded him. The Zephyrian representative began. Convulsing as dark energy flowed from his head into the nearest creature. The Silicon Collective's champion fell backward, her emotionless face now showing pure terror before her eyes went blank and empty. But Zara stood untouched in the center of the chaos. The shadow creatures passed around her as if she didn't exist. Her lack of telepathic ability, the condition she had hidden in shame for 23 years, made her invisible to the mind-feeding parasites. Marcus, she called to her advisor, who was also unaffected thanks to his human non-telepathic nature. We need to help them. Marcus was already moving, pulling out a communication device to contact the human team back on Valoria. Dr. Rivera, we need immediate assistance. The Void Swarm has found us, and all the telepaths are down. Dr. Rivera's voice crackled through the device. We're tracking your situation through the station's sensors. The swarm creatures can only feed on telepathic minds. Non-telepathic individuals should be safe. But you need to act quickly. Around the hall, more beings were falling victim to the creatures. The judges, council members, and security officers who were all telepathic species lay unconscious or writhing in pain. Only Zaraeth, Marcus, and a few scattered humans and other non-telepathic species remained standing. Your Highness, Marcus said urgently, you're the only one who can coordinate a defense. Your enhanced abilities let you see patterns and understand people. We need a plan. Zaraeth looked around the chaos and felt something she had never experienced before. Instead of shame for being different, she felt purpose, her neural enhancement. Interface activated fully, analyzing the situation with lightning speed. The creatures are drawn to active telepathic energy, she said, her mind processing information faster than ever before. But they can't feed on unconscious minds for long. If we can disrupt their feeding process and wake up the telepaths gradually, we might be able to fight back. She began moving through the hall, identifying which beings were still conscious and capable of helping. A group of human engineers from various delegations, several non-telepathic species who serve as translators and technical staff, even some robots and artificial intelligences that the swarm couldn't affect. Listen to me, she called out, her voice carrying the authority she had learned during her leadership training. I know this situation looks hopeless, but we can fight these things. They're parasites that depend on telepathic energy. Without it, they're just shadows. Marcus helped her gather the survivors into defensive groups, using her enhanced ability to read people and situations. Zaraeth organized them based on their skills and emotional states. The engineers worked on disrupting the station's telepathic amplification systems that were feeding the creatures extra energy. The security personnel who weren't telepathic formed protective barriers. Around the fallen contestants, Dr. Kim, Zaraeth said into Marcus's communication device, we need a way to wake the telepaths safely without making them vulnerable to attack again. Already working on it, came the reply. We're sending you the plans for a telepathic dampening field. It should allow them to regain consciousness without broadcasting their mental energy to the swarm. As Zaraeth coordinated the defense, something remarkable happened. The diverse group of survivors, who normally barely spoke to each other due to species differences, began working together like a perfectly synchronized team. Her enhanced empathy allowed her to understand what each person needed to hear, how to motivate them, and how to help them overcome their fear. Princess, called one of the human engineers, the dampening field is ready, but someone needs to activate it from the central control room. The path is crawling with those shadow creatures. Zaraeth looked toward the control room. Dark shapes moved through the corridors like living nightmares, but they couldn't see her. To them, she was just another piece of furniture in an empty room. I'll go, she said simply. Your Highness, it's too dangerous, Marcus protested. She turned to face him, and for the first time, her eyes held no doubt or shame. Marcus, for 23 years I believe I was broken because I couldn't read minds. But today I learned something important. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from being the one person who can't be controlled. As she prepared to venture into the shadow-filled corridors, Prince Kethmer stirred slightly on the floor, his red eyes open partially, unfocused but aware. Through his pain and confusion, he saw the princess who he had suspected of deception standing fearless among creatures that had defeated every powerful telepath in the galaxy. Impossible. He whispered weakly. She should be affected. But Zara didn't hear him. She was already walking toward the control room, invisible to the creatures that fed on telepathic minds, carrying the hopes of everyone who had ever been told they were different, weak, or broken. For the first time in her life, being unable to read minds wasn't her greatest weakness. It was her greatest power. Princess Zara moved through the corridors like a ghost among nightmares. The shadow creatures writhed and pulsed around her, their red cores glowing as they searched for telepathic minds to feed upon. But to them, she was invisible. Her mind blindness, the condition that had brought her shame for 23 years, now made her the only person who could save the galaxy's most powerful telepaths. The control room door was sealed, its electronic locks damaged by the swarm's energy attacks. Zara placed her hand on the scanner, and the neural enhancement interface helped her analyze the damage patterns, using techniques the humans had taught her about reading systems and understanding patterns. She found a way to manually override the locks inside the control room. She quickly located the telepathic dampening field controls. The device was more complex than anything she had seen before, but her enhanced pattern recognition abilities allowed her to understand its function. She activated the field and immediately felt a change in the air around the station. In the assembly hall, the shadow creatures began to slow their feeding. The unconscious telepaths stirred as their minds became hidden from the parasites. One by one, the most powerful beings in the galaxy began to wake up. Prince Kethmer was among the first to regain consciousness. His red eyes opened to see chaos around him, but also something impossible. Princess Zara-Eth's voice came through the communication system, calm and clear, giving instructions to coordinate their defense. All telepathic individuals, listen carefully. Her voice said, "The dampening field will protect you, but only if you keep your mental energy low. Do not try to use your abilities until we can drive these creatures away." How is she still conscious? Prince Kethmer whispered to himself. How is she giving orders when every telepath has been defeated? But there was no time for questions. The shadow creatures, frustrated by their inability to feed, began attacking the station's structure itself. Without telepathic energy to consume, they tried to destroy everything around them. Zara-Eth's voice continued to guide the defense. Human engineers, report to the weapons systems. Non-telepathic security teams form protective barriers around the telepathic survivors. We need to work together if we're going to survive this. From the control room, she could see everything happening through the station's cameras. Her enhanced abilities allowed her to process multiple information streams at once, coordinating dozens of different groups while analyzing the creature's behavior patterns. "Marcus," she said into her communicator, "I need you to gather all the conscious contestants. I have an idea, but I need their help." When the survivors were assembled, Zara-Eth made a decision that would change her life forever. Instead of hiding her secret any longer, she activated the station's main communication system and broadcast to the entire galaxy. People of all worlds, her voice echoed across space, reaching every planet, every ship, every outpost in the galactic community. "My name is Princess Zara-Eth of the Valorian Empire, and I have something important to tell you." In the assembly hall, Prince Kethmer and the other contestants listened with growing amazement. "I am not telepathic," she continued, her voice steady and strong. "I have never been telepathic for 23 years. I have hidden this truth because I believed it made me weak, broken, and unworthy of leadership." Gasps echoed through the hall. On worlds across the galaxy, billions of beings stopped what they were doing to listen. But today I learned something that changed everything. The shadow creatures that have attacked us feed on telepathic energy. They have defeated every powerful mind in this tournament, but they cannot touch me. Because my mind works differently. She paused, watching through the cameras as more shadow creatures swarmed toward the station. For too long, our galaxy has believed that telepathic power equals leadership ability. We have assumed that the strongest mind should rule over all others. But true leadership isn't about controlling thoughts. It's about inspiring hearts. Prince Kethmer struggled to his feet, his face showing confusion and something that might have been respect. "She's not telepathic," he said to the other contestants. "That's why her mental signature felt strange. That's why she could solve problems we couldn't understand." Zara continued her broadcast. "The creatures that attack us represent what happens when we rely only on mental domination. They show us the danger of believing that forcing others to obey is the same as earning their loyalty through the station's weapons systems. The human engineers had found a way to disrupt the shadow creatures' energy patterns. But the real breakthrough came when Zara coordinated something that had never been attempted before. All telepathic survivors, she announced, I need you to do something that goes against everything you've been taught. Instead of using your abilities to control, I need you to use them to connect. She began guiding them through a process that her human advisors had theorized but never tested. Instead of each telepath fighting alone, they linked their minds together in a network of cooperation rather than domination. The Zephyrians' anxiety became balanced by the Silicon Collective representatives' calm logic. Prince Kethmer's strategic thinking, combined with the Crystalline Empire champion's creative intuition. For the first time in galactic history, different telepathic species worked together as equals rather than trying to dominate each other. The result was devastating to the shadow creatures, fed by cooperation instead of conflict, by harmony instead of domination. The combined telepathic network created an energy pattern that the parasites couldn't consume. The creatures began to dissolve, their red cores fading as they lost their ability to feed. Within an hour, the last of the Void Swarm had been destroyed. The space station was safe, and the galaxy had witnessed something unprecedented. As the immediate danger passed, Counselor Velter appeared as a hologram in the assembly hall. His expression showed wonder and disbelief. Princess Zara, he said formally, by your actions today, you have not only saved the lives of everyone on this station, but you have demonstrated leadership abilities that surpass anything we have seen in centuries. The other contestants, even Prince Kethmer, nodded in agreement. They had seen something that changed their understanding of power itself. The Galactic Council unanimously names you the new Cosmic Arbiter, Velter announced, not because of telepathic strength, but because of wisdom, courage, and the ability to unite different minds in harmony. Zara stood in the control room, looking out at the stars through the window. For the first time in her life, she felt truly free. No more hiding, no more shame, no more pretending to be something she was in single quotes T. Marcus appeared beside her, smiling with pride. How does it feel, Your Majesty? She touched the neural enhancement interface hidden in her hair, the technology that had helped her discover her true abilities. It feels like coming home to myself. 6 months later, Princess Zara sat on the Cosmic Arbiter's throne, a seat that had been redesigned to amplify wisdom and understanding rather than telepathic domination. Marcus stood at her right side as Chief Strategic Advisor, representing humanity's new role as valued partners in galactic leadership. The throne room had been open to beings of all species, telepathic and non-telepathic alike. For the first time in galactic history, leadership was based on ability to inspire and unite, not the power to control minds. A delegation of young beings from across the galaxy waited to meet with her. Like her, they were individuals who had been told they were different, weak, or broken because they didn't fit the expectations of their species. Welcome, Zara said to them, her voice warm with understanding. I know what it feels like to believe you don't belong, but I've learned something important. Sometimes the galaxy doesn't need another powerful mind trying to control everything. Sometimes it needs someone who thinks differently, who sees solutions that others miss. She stood from her throne and walked among them, seeing the hope growing in their eyes. Your differences aren't weaknesses to hide, she continued. They're strengths waiting to be discovered, and in this new galaxy we're building together, there's a place for every kind of mind. Outside the throne room windows, ships from hundreds of different worlds traveled peacefully through space. The galaxy had learned that true unity came not from forcing everyone to think the same way, but from celebrating the strength that came from thinking differently. And at the center of it all sat a former princess who had once believed she was broken, now ruling not through the power to control minds, but through the wisdom to unite hearts. The hidden crown had become visible at last, and it was more beautiful than anyone had ever imagined.